Hey guys, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thanks so much for tuning in to what's going to be a review of the new Wet n Wild Perfect Pout lipsticks. Gonna be not only reviewing them but trying them on and then also comparing them to an old favorite Wet n Wild formula, which is the Mega Last lip color, because at this point Wet n Wild has quite a few different formulas in their collection. They've been launching a ton recently, but I not only have a review of the satin lipsticks, also the new Catsuit Liquid High Shine lipsticks, but I've also tried these as well, which I think is the most comparable formula. So I wanted to let you know my thoughts on them and show you those swatches, since a lot of you guys say you find those helpful in choosing the shade for you. So if you're interested in that, let's go ahead and dive in. So first, let's start off with the rundown of these Perfect Pout lip colors. So there are 12 shades in the collection and all but one are a matte finish, and that's exactly what these promise. So just to read the description from the website, which is where I ordered these from, by the way, I've been getting to where I like ordering directly from the Wet n Wild website, because even though it's one of those brands that's really good at being available at a lot of different retailers, so often I find that the collection is incomplete, shades are missing, sometimes the products are open, you know, since there are no testers at the drugstore. So I just find for the most consistent experience and the most consistent availability of shades, I just go straight to the Wet n Wild website, and they tend to have like discounts and promos. Like right now they're offering 30% off of eyes. Since the time that I ordered this, they were offering 30% off of all makeup on the website. So not only is Wet n Wild a pretty affordable brand as it is, but they also offer those discounts pretty frequently, I want to say. So that's where I got these from, and the description for these on the website says that they are a creamy lightweight formula with a velvety soft finish in weightless color intense shades. And in this light creamy as air texture, there is Murumuru seed butter, sunflower seed oil, argan oil, and macadamia oil for maximum infusion of moisture. These go for $3.99 a piece, unless of course you are buying them on discount, either on the Wet n Wild website or with a coupon from the drugstore. And they come in this really slick looking, I think, bullet format. So they do close all the way, or like roll all the way down, so the product sits flush with the edge, so that when you put your cap on, which is just like a basic clear cap, you don't have to worry about the edge clearing the product. I'm going to do the full comparison between these and the Mega Last lipsticks at the end of the video, but just by comparison, so you understand what I mean by that, is if you look at the Mega Last lipstick, this is as far down as it goes. So until you use all that, I always find I have to kind of worry about this clear, and you can even see the cap's dirty, this clear part of the cap, making sure it goes on squarely on top so that I don't scrape off a bunch of product. And then more often than not, I do that as I'm throwing it into my purse, and then everything in my purse gets covered in product. So I do really appreciate that this one rolls down so it's totally flush with the edge of the container. I also really like that this smaller, slimmer tube offers a smaller surface area here. I just find that makes it easier to get a more precise application, and especially with a more pigmented lipstick formula like this, it's everything to me to be able to apply this directly from the tube itself and not have to get a brush in order to get those clean lines. This does a pretty good job at getting a precise application across the lips. Again, kind of unlike that Mega Last formula, which I tend to find is a little bit big, especially in the Cupid's bow area. So in terms of the pigmentation claim, I think all of these pretty much live up to it with the exception of two shades. Across the board, these are generally pretty opaque, non-streaky. They're pretty pigmented and basically opaque with one swipe, but kind of because they are a drier matte formula, really more so comes down to making sure it's an even application, because I think you'll be able to see in the swatch close-ups that these do drag on the lips a little bit because of that texture, but for the most part, it's an even layer of product once you get it all smoothed out, and it doesn't take much to get these at full opacity. The two shade exceptions though are the very lightest shade, which is 605B or No More Drama. This is a super light peachy pink shade, and this I just found to be a little bit streaky on my lips. Even with significant building, it looks streaky, and that could be in part due to the dryness that I'm experiencing with my lips right now. I would say for the most part, this is a forgiving formula when it comes to lip dryness and texture if you have any kind of flakiness to your lips at all. But because of the sheerness of this shade, I did feel like it kind of clung to those patches, or I could see that it clung to those patches more, and it just gave me a little bit more of a streaky, patchy looking wear. The other shade that is not totally opaque, and I don't think is meant to be opaque, is 883A or First Place Winner. And I say I don't think it's meant to be opaque because it comes off as a shimmery wash of color across the lips, and this is the only only shimmery shade in the collection, and I actually you wouldn't know that just by looking at the descriptions on the website. Like, there are no shade descriptions, and the swatches available don't really indicate that it's shimmery or non-opaque, but clearly you'll be able to see in the swatch video, this is like a shimmery metallic sort of finish that I think is meant to be worn as a topper over any one of these shades. So I don't really fault this shade for not being opaque, but definitely want to let you know, in case you're buying it thinking it's like an opaque gold or golden yellow shade, it is not. It is metallic slash shimmery and definitely sheer. Then as far as the finish and texture goes, these definitely dry down to a more satin, I would say mostly matte finish, but it's very, very thin. Like I mentioned before, it doesn't take a whole lot of product to build up the pigmentation here, so you just need a light thin layer on the lips. It feels as light as it says it's supposed to be in the description, and so I think that keeps your lips a little bit less dry throughout wear. But I will say, after repeated wear of all of these shades, like day after day and reapplication throughout the day, it definitely didn't help my dry lip situation. Like, my lips started dry when I was testing these, and sticking solely to these throughout the day didn't make them feel any more hydrated, if that makes sense. Like, I really did have to layer a balm at night or in the morning to prep my lips to keep them feeling truly hydrated, because even though these might contain a lot of moisturizing, hydrating, good for your lips sort of ingredients, I definitely wouldn't call them a hydrating formula. I think they more so keep that matte finish and that texture from further dehydrating your lips and kind of making them feel tight and uncomfortable and shriveled at the end of the day. For wear time, these aren't totally transfer proof. You're definitely going to see them coming off on your cups when you drink. You'll notice wear, obviously, when you eat food throughout the day, but I have to give them credit that they are longer lasting than I expected, given how light and kind of non-existent they feel on the lips, and yet for how pigmented they are, I really expected them to wear out faster than they did. But despite that transfer, there is like a thin layer that stays on the lips, and it doesn't look streaky as the product wears off. It still maintains a pretty decent opacity, but I would say, bar any like really heavy, like oily or greasy foods, like oil-based salad dressings, pizzas, things like that, like if you're just snacking throughout the morning, you know, light sips here and there, they lasted like 3, 4, sometimes even 5 hours on me, depending on what I had going on. So I would call these a pretty long-lasting formula, especially considering they're not meant to be like a dry down liquid lip stain. So overall, I really like the formula. If you're looking for a pretty comfortable, lightweight, matte lipstick formula that offers a lot of pigmentation, and that's super affordable, this is definitely a collection I would look to. And in terms of a comparison, I would say I prefer this formula over the Mega Last formula. So for reference, the Mega Last formula is cheaper by the ounce, or by whatever unit of measure you want to go by. Basically, the Mega Last is $2.69 for a tube, and you get more product in this tube, 3.3 grams, versus the Perfect Pout, which is $3.99 a tube, and you only get 2.1 grams in this tube. But the formula difference, I think, is everything. The Mega Last offers similar pigmentation. It too is a pretty pigmented formula, but it's so much thicker than the Perfect Pout lip colors. And because it's also a matte formula, I just find that between that and the heaviness of the formula itself, just wears a little bit rougher on my lips throughout the day. That's not to say it's not still gorgeous, but just by comparison, now that I've tried something thinner and just equally as pigmented as the Mega Last formula, I prefer the Perfect Pout. That said, if you're going for shade range alone, the Mega Last still has the Perfect Pout beat, because the Perfect Pout, like I said before, has 12 shades, and the Mega Last has something crazy like 26 shades, so more than double that from the Perfect Pout collection. But if you've ever tried the Mega Last formula and just feel like it's a little bit too thick for your liking, I would go ahead and try that Perfect Pout, because for not that much more money, it's just a little bit more of a comfortable formula. Okay, now let's get into the swatches. First, starting off with that gold shade, since it's kind of the odd man out. Like I said, this is the shade called First Place Winner. It is the only shimmery slash metallic finish in the bunch, and it can be built to be relatively opaque, but I find that the more you build it, the streakier it kind of feels and gets, so it's better off worn as a thin layer over the lips. But the way I really like to wear it is actually in conjunction with one of these shades, because I find it just adds some really interesting depth and dimension to these, but of course it also changes the finish. Now I want to talk about the shade 882A or Power Outage. This is a gorgeous grayy black. As far as black lipsticks go, I wouldn't say it's the deepest out there. It's a really interesting kind of deep, dark gray black. I almost thought it was blue at first, but I think it's really more of like a dark charcoaly gray black, which I think makes it a nice option for anyone out there who might want to dip their toe in the black lipstick shade range, but just feels like solid deep black might be too severe. This is a good option, and it's also a good one to wear again at the same time as another shade within the range, just to deepen it up, add some depth if you want to create an ombre lip using Power Outage, you know, towards the outer portion of the lips and then some more color on the inner portion. It just is a really fun shade to play with like that if you are a little bit more intimidated to wear it alone, or if it's just not an everyday shade for you alone. Next up is the shade 881A or my Blackberry Broke, and like the name suggests, this is a deep blackberry stain. Well, actually not a stain, it's totally opaque, but a blackberry kind of shade where it's a deep, deep plummy crimson kind of shade. It's actually super similar to the next shade up, which is 814A or 99% chance of wine, but this one is slightly lighter and definitely more red or berry leaning as opposed to the plum side of things like my Blackberry Broke. A 99% chance of wine is actually what I'm wearing on my lips in today's video. Moving on to the shade 754B or Pink-A-Holics. This is a bright, vibrant pink shade. I really love that they included this in the collection because I feel like bright, like well done, non-streaky bright pinks are kind of hard to find from the drugstore. A lot of times they'll have like a satin or metallic sort of frosty finish to them, or the quality just isn't there. They're streaky or not long lasting, and this is a truly beautiful pink shade. I think I'm gonna really love this one for spring and summer. I mean, I would have liked to see like a super hot neon, especially in this formula, but this is certainly not bad. The next shade is 785A or Club Brat. This is another one that I've really liked wearing because it's a really bold, true red kind of shade. It has a very, very slightly deeper, brickier tone to it as compared to the other very similar red shade in this collection, but I would say it's that brickiness that sets this apart. The other similar shade is 773A or Undercover Lover, and this is more of a blue-based red. It's just as bold, but a little bit brighter and lacks that subtle depth that the shade Club Brat has a little bit. And when you look at the bottom of these, don't go by the shade. Like if you're looking at these in store and you're thinking that the shade on the bottom is indicative of what this looks like on the lips, because it can sometimes be a little hard with the glare on this plastic packaging, they look nothing like the actual lipstick inside. And I also think the lipsticks themselves swatch a little differently because Club Brat in the tube looks far more brown and bricky to me than Undercover Lover, which looks like that true red or even a slightly blue-based red. Like they look nearly identical when you swatch them together. Next up is the shade 755A or Fiesta Party, and I love that this is a bright, vibrant, corally orange shade, but I hate that this is the only orangey coral or orange shade at all in this collection. And I feel like that has been my feedback on a lot of Wet n Wild's collections, is that they have like an orange, but they really could, especially for as much as I like this formula, I would have loved to see like an even brighter, bolder orange, maybe a more creamsicle orange or a red orange. And this, while it's beautiful, is just one orange among many that could have been in this collection. So gorgeous and recommend it, but would love, I mean, at the very least, a bright orange, especially for spring and summer. Then there is 753B, which is Ring Around the Rosy, and I think this is a very classic mauve shade, mauve rose shade that Wet n Wild puts in a lot of their collections. It's definitely one of my safety shades. Like whenever I just pick up a one-off shade from a collection, more often than not, it is this dusty, rosy mauve, because on me, it can sometimes be a Your Lips But Better color, adding just a little bit more depth than my natural lips have and a little bit more of a rosiness that I feel like makes them look healthy without being overdone. So this is just a classic shade, I think, from Wet n Wild. They did it really well in this collection too, but at the same time is maybe not a shade you need if you have some similar shades from other brands, but at the same time is maybe not a shade you want to pick up if you're like me and you tend to pick up that same shade from any brand, Wet n Wild or otherwise. Then there's shade 813B or Extra Cinnamon Please, and this does get into that orangey territory. It's like a burnt orange sienna kind of color, one that for me, it's more popular for me personally in the fall because it lands pretty squarely in that pumpkin spice territory. Still, I love that it has that orange tone to it, but would have loved to see that orange get pulled into some more shades within this collection. Next up is 606B or Barrier Soul, and this is a shade I love. It is a pretty true neutral mid-tone nude. Again, kind of a Your Lips But Better shade for me, but more in the nude category, less in the pink or mauve category. And I love it because it just takes my lips down a shade or two, or I guess deeper a shade or two, to just give them a little bit more richness, make them look a little more pigmented, contrast a little bit. And I think the fact that it's a neutral nude is going to make it really flattering for a lot of people. And last up is the shade 605B or No More Drama. Again, this is the one that I don't really care for the pigmentation and the streakiness, but in terms of a shade description, it is a super light pink, kind of leans a little peach, and I think the formula in conjunction with the color payoff just leaves my lips feeling and looking a little bit chalky. And those are all my thoughts on the new Perfect Pout collection. I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope the swatches especially were helpful. If you were considering any of these and just unsure of what shade to get, hope this video helped. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Besides that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.